Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Modern Engineers. I hope you all had a great New Year's. Just to start this video, my computer that's hosting the session has had a malfunction with its DC port and no longer works. So the quality is probably going to start dropping for a little bit as I no longer have a server to host the session on, which means that it's back on solo play. So I'm sorry for that, but I'm still going to continue the series as normal. Aside from that, it's not really going to change all that much. This episode's also going to be a little bit longer as I'm basically picking up where I left off with the last episode being the dry docking. So literally just going to pick it right back up and get straight to work. So I do hope you all enjoy this. I'm just trying to be as transparent as possible, so you're going to see some errors and bugs and stuff like that. The Ares at Warside no longer works because it's now just being hosted back on my old computer. And unfortunately, the server talks I had with a friend are no longer in talks anymore. So that's what it is. But anyway, I'm just going to carry on and get back to normal. Okay, now that the ship's docked, we're going to install shore power here and get that. Nope, first we're going to go get some parts. Alright, now we're going to install shore power. We're going to put up this big old tower here, and we're going to hook this up on this side of the ship. Because the hope is eventually to install a crane, but on the other pier. So this is going to be the supporting crane, or supporting systems. So we're just going to use these scaffolding blocks. Try and take up as little space as possible. And get up to this height. That looks good. Right, and I am going to add a no, we're not gonna do a converter. We're just gonna do a advanced rotor hinge because the advanced ones allow you to transfer power across the grids. So should be pretty easy. Oh, stutter. Now that that is good, we can start welding these up. Yeah. We're gonna have to go get more parts, so I'm gonna go weld this up. Alright. Tower is up. I'm gonna add some greebling. Probably should add a way to get up there, but not necessarily now. There we go. Some power cables. Try out this conduit block for the first time. Not a lot of curved options. Alright, that's all welded up now. I'm just going to paint it so that it stands out a little bit more. Go with black. Now, I think this should be pretty much good to go. Yep. Grab the cable. Let's hook it up here. Now the grids are connected, and I'm just going to add this extra cable for looks mostly. And then we're good to go. Now we're hooked up to the shore, so now we're providing power to the ship. I'm going to go ahead and turn off this generator so that the ship's no longer running off of this generator here. And shut down. There we go. Alright, next on the task is pure pre-staging. I'm going to basically lay out all the materials I want to put inside the ship, engineering-wise, and kind of get an idea of how big and how, start associating all the parts. So I'm going to start putting these turbines down, and then I'll probably pick it back up after I've placed everything down. So, give me one. Yeah, I'm going to pick it back up. Alright, So if you ever wanted to see what a battleship looks like from the inside out, this is basically it. We got 8 turbines, 4 boilers, eight boilers, four condensers, and we also have a bunch of auxiliary equipment here. So you can see some of the load centers. We have the 2 generators over here, and then we have a couple of air conditioning plants and some life support systems for the basic crew necessities. So yeah, as I gut out the ship, this is what's going to go in. The parts are going to go in here for security. Alright, next task is we're going to have to remove these propellers, and I'm going to have to do some changes back here, so I'm going to want to start setting up some scaffolding around the ship. So this is a good start. So I'm going to go ahead and get started back here and probably time-lapse this. Alright, scaffolding's up. Now I'm going to go ahead and start removing these propellers and get them put on the pier. Alright, they're removed. The shafts are going to have to be shortened for the rudders, so this is just pre-staging so I don't lose all the parts. But yeah, so far so good as a good start, getting those shafts, the propellers removed. We're going to basically remove the 2 inboard shafts and replace them with skegs, because that's just how it is on these battleships. It makes them a little bit more stable and a little bit quicker. And we're also going to shorten them so that we can have room for those rudders. But yeah, I don't think that looks too bad, and it's a good first start. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next task. Alright, scaffolding again. This time it's going to be access to the ship. I guess we could just call this episode Road to Scaffolding or something like that. But I'm going to go ahead and skip this section too. It's just me putting up scaffolding. That should do it. Now I have access to the ship without necessarily having to use a jetpack. Alright. This doesn't look too bad, I guess. It's also on the dry dock floor, so it can go up and down with the ship. It's also good to put it on the floor in case I ever actually do install that crane for this pier, so it's not in the way. Access is a little janky, but it might be something I have to fix later. It's scaffolding, it's not supposed to be perfect. Let's see what it looks like when I put it on spectator. Yeah, that's not that bad. Looks okay. The whole ship's going to end up covered with scaffolding here soon just for painting, but it's a good start. Good access to the ship, kind of keeps it out of the way. The next task is going to be a transfer system, so I can easily move parts from the top of the ship to the pier. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of get started on that. This is also kind of what my ammo elevators look like, so I'm going to show you guys how I set it up so that if you ever want to use this on your ships or just a quick cheap little transfer system, this is kind of how you do it. So we're going to give itself a foundation that's out of the way, and then we're going to get a connector. We want to use the inset connector for no reason aside from it looks better. It's also easier to work with a little bit because it's on full block. And then we're going to use these pipes. Again, no real reason, just any pipes will do, but I like to use these ones for this case. Now this will just make it easier when I go to, that might be the wrong one. Yeah, that's the wrong one. This just makes it easier to transfer parts from the pier, say by truck, to the brow, so that I don't have to carry I'm not limited to what I can carry on me. And there's a 50 cal there. I'm gonna put the connector on top here. Yeah, it'll be just cheaper if I put the connector in lengthen the. I'm not gonna tear apart this section, am I? No. Yeah, let's figure out the rotation here first. Alright, I'm gonna put it so that it's a little bit, I can just access it via the scaffolding. That's just gonna make it easier. Now, the trick is you're using this to automatically use the auto push and pull to transfer the parts. Struggling with the buttons today. So I'm going to go ahead and weld this up and I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. Alright, see? No big deal. I put a container on the bottom because the push and pull will automatically push it either up or down, and this means that I'm not limited to just 8,000 liters from these connectors. I kind of painted it orange because it looks like one of those garbage chutes that they throw on the sides of those buildings. But yeah, I think it's alright. It's good for like transferring a lot of stuff up and moving things around. Alright, next we're going to set up some of these cargo containers on the ship. I'm going to put them on the bow. I'm going to have to put them out of the way of the gun and things like that. So I'm going to try and use resources that are already on the ship to build these. Oh, these railings are in the way. Right, it looks like we're going to start cutting the deck up. And these are only temporary. They'll be replaced once the ship is put back together. Start with one for now, but I might have to go up. Hey, perfect time for another job. Let's on the job list was to move this forward, so this will just make it a little bit easier. So I'm just going to go ahead and start cutting this up, and then I'll use the parts that I get to basically finish up welding that container. So what I want to do is cut the exact same blocks that are cut on this. Looks like they're doing a diagonal. I'm not too worried about the paint that I hazard marked because, to be completely honest, that was just to be there. Nothing here was official. It's just kind of an idea. All right. I'm gonna grab these little gun rails. Wonder if I should paint it the green for unwelded. Nah, just that green. I don't remember what that green looks like. I'll just put it on the normal color. Means I don't have to paint it again. Put them on here. Go ahead and put this gun cover shield up. Okay, so it turns out I had these backwards, so I'm just gonna swap them back around. Cool. Alright, another thing, I'm going to start removing some of these patches here. Alright, welded up, we're good to go. Anything I take off the boat, clearing out the interior, is going to go right here. That should basically get started. I'm going to probably start on this area here. Okay, I'm at the bottom, so looks like you put in another layer. It's probably going to have to all get gutted. It's going to be a long process. Alright, that's finished and good to go. So, yeah, I don't think that looks too bad. I just moved it forward because we did move the gun forward, and I want some room for the air vents and a few other systems without crowding the deck and kind of making everything a little bit too tight. Yeah, I think that looks alright. So, next task is going to be this little entryway here. Okay, so the area is cleaned up a little bit. So the reason we moved turret 1 forward was to mimic this design feature that is on most American battleships. Since the design of this ship is going to base close to a Montana, what I'm doing is I'm basing my reference material off of a mixture of the Montana plans that are pictured here and the US Iowa plans that are pictured here. So this area is supposed to be the quarterdeck area. I've seen this before, not only in real life when I go to work, but also just kind of in general. So the focus, or the main thing that we want to do, is focus on functionality and what we want it to achieve, and then design and make sure that we get everything we want in it. Because we're working with a tight amount of space here, and we're trying not to subgrid. So the functions that this will need to do will be air. It'll have to have a quarterdeck and access to the lower deck, which is one side of that stairwell. So, yeah, it's going to involve cutting this deck up and kind of getting it the right shape. So we're going to have to go ahead and use a lot of these panel blocks, possibly, and a few other things. Let me get everything kind of sorted out here. One thing is I forgot to get my paint number for the deck here, so let me grab that real quick. Cool part is if you just hold the number, you can find out. You just hold the paint gun, you should be able to find out how much. So it looks like that was 3. Okay, good to go. Now that I have the same color of teak that I used on my ship, that should be basically the same now when we go to put it on this ship. Now I want some wood here, kind of give us a good idea of what the area we're working with. We're going to have this gap between the two guns that we can walk. Cool, I'm going to weld this up real quick. Alright, that's the area we're working with. So like I said before, we want to focus on functionality over anything else. So it needs to achieve those 3 things I mentioned, which is it needs to provide airflow for the lower deck, so we need to be able to have a vent or some sort of way to push air down into the lower section of the ship. It needs to have access to the lower deck. It needs to have the quarterdeck, and that means it's going to have buttons and a few other things to access alarms and a few things like that. So it'll need 2 doors on either side. And that will be the big thing here, is to make sure that we have that design in this area. And unfortunately, with the gun on top, it does mean that it is going to be quite difficult to put any parts. But yeah, so we're going to get started on that. Okay, so as stated, functionality first. We're going to need some way to get below deck. So good as I need to start right here for the airflow. I like to typically use these Willis ducts. Yeah, you can see they're going to have issues with the gun. So we can't put anything on top. So that means we're not going to be able to just put an air vent right here and just pull air down. So I'm thinking that I'm going to use a different system here that I normally use for airflow. So either way, I still need to get air down. I think a little bit harder on this. We'll probably knock out the other task for access to this deck. So door, and then in here, cut this down. We'll get a set of stairs. use these long ones. And then we'll cut this out. Probably put a light in here, but for now it is fine just to use this. Alright, now we have main deck access, so that's one of the first functionalities done. And we'll probably add... get that welded first. Alright, first one is down, I guess. Now we'll probably grab something else here real quick. Alright, got the parts I needed. We're going to add a corridor to cover up this, but still make access to it. So I like to use these corner ones. They do have a tendency to make it a little bit more difficult to get up and down these stairs, but you know what? It is what it is. Ships are hard to get through. That's one. Okay, easy access. It's on the right side too. We'll have to probably cut this up for a door, but that'll be a future problem. I'm going to remove these sides here real quick, just so that I have more, just a little bit more room to see what it's going to look like before I cover them back up. Alright, now I'm going to use a different setup that I normally do for air intakes, because usually I just do an air vent, but I'm going to try using these windless ducts as more of an like a vent trunk, which is just a kind of a duct that allows you to push air through the ship. This isn't going to work, but there's the vent you see on top of this, and we're going to probably move this over because I need it to go down. And I can't put anything on top of this because of the turret, so it needs to pull air from the top and then push it down. That's definitely not... Put a T-trunk here. Definitely did that wrong. Okay. We'll put the T-junction... No, just a curved corner. Yeah. Corner. Right here. Then we'll put the vent right here. No, T-junction still. Something along these lines, maybe? Back to this right here. Put that right here. Yep. I think that's going to provide our air. Or remove this. Hang on, one more second. Just grab one of these doors here. Let's try a hatch. No. Yeah, there it is. We'll try these ship doors. I usually don't try them except for breezeways because they're kind of large, but we can give it a shot. As long as it doesn't prevent the function. Try right here. Yeah, no, we're just... I want it flush, not sticking out. Doesn't look too terrible, right? That looks alright. Change it to the bare paint here in a minute. See how I feel about this for functionality first. Be nice if you had these all on one thing. Alright, see. Next, we're going to add this stowage because quarterdecks have storage space. Make it a little bit easier. There we go. Nice little narrow storage space. It'll also have a light, so that'll provide some lighting in here. Not sure how we're going to do this transition because this is going to be divided, so we'll just put this panel here to start with. Give this side some room as I try to figure out how I'm going to divide this quarterdeck section up. Oh yeah, no roof. Alright, so that's not going to work. So we'll have to do probably a passage or a corridor. Because I don't have a roof here. So normally I'm going to edit most of these out because, you know, take my time. Alright, let's add this button here. Get some of that functionality out. See if I can see if there's anything else I can put in here. Nah. We'll try with a button first. That's a little tight. That's why I don't really record it, because it's just a lot of me thinking. Let's just try moving this button panel here first. Gotta be careful because this one has two sets of LCD screens. You don't want to be on the wrong side. Wonder, I use a panel for this one. Or a full block, maybe? Nah, we'll just probably end up using these corridors. Yeah. Put a corner. Yeah, we'll put a T1 here and a corridor here. Corner. There. These doors have gaps in them. I don't like that. So we're gonna have to do something better. I'm gonna have to use these narrow doors. Yeah, these offset ones. And I'll put like a corridor or something in the middle here. I'll put haven't decided on this one yet. Okay, got all the parts. Decided on how I want it. This is kind of the bare bones frame of how it's supposed to be. And now as I gut the interior of the ship, I'm going to put this where I want to basically weld it up. Make it look all nice and pretty. I might have to move these hatches forward though so that they're not obstructing, but we'll get to work. Alright, that's as close as I'm going to get because the doors need more parts. Doors are always kind of one of those things that are last to be installed. It doesn't look so bad so far. I need some computers and displays for this, but yeah, it doesn't look too bad so far. I think it looks alright. See if I have any. I don't have any displays. But so far it achieves most of our function. I might move on to another task though while I get some parts. Grab some more of this stuff inside.
Inventory full.
Well, there's some displays right here. Start moving on to the next task, I guess. For air vents. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next. This good portion of the bow started, so we're going to start moving on to these next areas. So these are going to be supply trunks, so I'll make sure my inventory is empty here. I'll move on for the rest of the ship here. So this is access to the forward bosun area. Just more access below decks. So we'll put our stair here. Good to go. Good smooth transition there. This is going to be a ladder. So grab some of those parts here. Yeah, let me grab some of those parts here. Gonna need the ladder well first. And now the actual ladder. That'll be good. So far it's looking good. This area needs to be fixed, so paint that up real quick. Good to go. Yeah, that looks good. All right. I'll make sure to send a picture to the the builder once I get done with most of this area. Okay, so moving down into the forward windless area. So we're going to want to maximize as much room as here as possible throughout the ship because it's hollow. So I'm going to get started. Alright, quick tip. You want to know where your capstans are. Just grind out the block underneath it. And then now you know where to place the chain balls or the capstan motors. So, right here, I like to use columns for the capstan parts or the anchor parts. So I'll just put that right there. Good to go. And then we'll move on to finishing this. All right, this is the front of the ship now. So I'm going to probably put these parts back. There we go. That's as much as we can do. Now next we're going to thin out the armor on the sides here so that we have more room. And I like to use these flat panels. It doesn't really matter up here on the bow because, you know, there's nothing really vital up here worth protecting. And it also makes it a little bit more realistic. So I like to use these thin panels so that you can see the curve of the ship. It gives you the impression of more room despite there actually not being much more room. So far it looks alright. I'm just going to make sure I get the right pieces in. You gotta make sure that you use the right tips when you're using them, otherwise they'll stick out and not be flush on the inside, on the outside when you paint the hull. Alright, cool. Now we got to do the other side. Alright. There we go. All nice and welded. That's maximized. Now, it's going to get divided into different rooms, but so far, it looks pretty good. See what it looks like on the outside. I think I dropped a panel out here somewhere. Yeah. It'll look better once it's painted. I don't think no, I don't know where that panel is. I'm sure it'll turn up once the water goes down. Yeah, it'll probably turn up later. Alright, cool. Now we're gonna probably weld up this part back up here. Nah, I'll make sure to send the prints to this guy. I think next we're gonna work on is the access covers for these areas. Can never remember. Yeah, it's a hatch, right? Yeah. I can never remember which one of these hatches is it that actually animates. We'll just try both. We'll try this one first. Actually, let's try this one first. I think this looks a little bit better for this area, so we'll try this up, get this one welded, and find out. This was the wrong one. It doesn't move. See? There we go. Fixed. That's what I'm after. Let's see what it looks like so far. It's not great, but not terrible. I'm going to take a picture of this and send it to the builder, see what he thinks. Yeah, I don't think that looks too bad. Yeah, I think the brighter color looks better. It'll look a lot better once it's all finished. Okay, so I got a hold of the guy and he sent me the prints for the superstructure he wants, and I've gotten a lot done so far with it. It's just a lot more that needs to be done. So I'm gonna have to rebuild that whole superstructure, aren't I? Literally from the top down. Probably have to extend the contract. Yeah, gonna have to extend the contract. Alright, so yeah, it's been decided. I am going to put up scaffolding on the superstructure because I have to tear it all down to put up the new superstructure. So this is going to be a lot harder than I thought. Anyway, you know what that means? Time-lapse time. Okay, I'm just taking pictures for a progress report here for the owner. So far, I think she's going alright. This is going to basically conclude the first week of work on this ship. It's not a lot, unfortunately, because a lot of it's going to have to redo the superstructure on the outside. Mostly just because I need to know how much space I'm working with, and the superstructure is going to determine the layout of the interior of the ship. Not all of the interior, that's why I got some work done in the forward area over here. So I'll be sending these pictures off to the owner to see what they think and if they like it so far. I do have some stuff I gotta throw up here too, so like some projectors for the phone and distance line. I've still got a lot of work I gotta do up here. I got a bulkhead and work on it, but we'll see how it goes from here. Yeah, I think it looks alright. I'm sorry about the format for this video. Like I said, my server computer gave up. I'm still working on fixing it. and I just have to balance a time to settle and deal with it. But we're getting there. We're getting there. I kind of like the new Superstructure. It's more Iowa based, so that'll just help me with my plans and my experience. I think that went well, this forward area here. But we'll see when we get there. In the meantime, this is going to kind of wrap it up for this video as I get to work on the main Superstructure and stuff like that. I'm going to balance these videos out. I can't just keep working on this ship. I still need to do other tasks and get some logistics done. So I think maybe I'll take a break between this ship and some other stuff. Like, the next episode is going to probably be logistics and getting things sorted out. But in the meantime, that's going to wrap it up, and I'll see you all on the next one. So take care now.